Hari Om. We'll get started. Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadhanam Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopashantaye Vasudheva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam. We'll get started. Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Sadhashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shrutismృతి Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namana Bhagavatam Shankaram Lokashankaram Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande. Pranams and welcome you all on this auspicious occasion of Krishna Janmashtami. Let us continue our studies of understanding Guru through Guru Tattva talks. We have come a long way understanding what Guru Tattva is, understanding the Guru Parampara, the Guru lineage we all bow down to, and also understanding the significance difference that a Guru can bring in one's life, and knowing what are the good qualities of an ideal student seeking the knowledge from a Guru. Further, we also went ahead and understood in deep about Adi Shankaracharya, a great saint who re-established Sanatana Dharma on Vedic grounds. Further, we also understood about immediate disciples of Shankaracharya and his works on different deities, Saundara Lahari, Bhajagovindam, and many other works at glimpse. So with that, our journey did not stop. It continued with understanding about the living examples who has led their life with all that one should look up to and has graced us with their karunya. Jagadguru Mahasannidhanam Sri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamiji of Dakshinamnaya Sri Sharada Shringeri Pita and Sannidhanam Sri Vidushekara Bharati Mahaswamiji of Shringeri Pita. So now the time has come for us to understand all these Vedantic concepts that we have learned for last couple of weeks through stories. The stories, the one that we can relate to, the concepts which we can easily understand through. Today, to facilitate this, we have with us Dr. Thimappa Hegde sir. This is a series of talks that we are conducting in the name of Kishora Bharati, commemorating 50th year of Sannyasa Svikara of Jagadguru Sri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamiji of Shringeri Peetham. We welcome to you, sir. We are very happy and pleased to have you with us today. Children are looking forward for the talks to listen to you. Just to give a brief introduction about Dr. Thimappa Hegde, sir. He is currently a director and senior consultant neurosurgeon at Narayana Hridayalaya Institute of Neuroscience. Earlier to this, he has served as the additional professor of neurosurgery at NIMHANS, Bangalore. He was the president of Neurospine Surgeon Association of India, and he has authored more than 30 plus scientific publications in leading journals, and he has also written a book on history of neuroscience. And to this, he has also been awarded with Dattatreya Prashasti, which is awarded by Sri Shirdi Sai Global Service Trust, and also Outstanding Citizen Awards by Lions Club Bangalore. These are only two things that we have mentioned. He has been awarded with many other accolades for his achievement. And along with the profession, he is also mentoring and guiding hundreds of spiritual seekers through a study forum called Param Vedanta Group. It's online classes on various scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhajagovindam, Digdrishya Viveka, Viveka Chudamani, Upanishads, and other things. So he has been a guiding force and mentoring for most of us here. And today we are very pleased to have you with us, sir. With that background, I would now like to hand it over to Hegde, sir. So welcome to you, and it's yours now.
Thank you very much, Shri Narasimha Prasad. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. So this is the topic that is given to me, and I'm told that the audience will be from age 3
Sir, you went on mute, maybe.
I'm still mute. Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you are.
Thank you very much, Sri Narasimha Prasad, for this opportunity to be with you and this group. Uh, Speaking to small children is a real challenge. I do not know what I really can do, but I will make an attempt primarily for adults because are you able to see me now?
Yes, sir. The screen, yeah, we are able to see.
But I'm somewhere suddenly everything disappears now. When I put my screen, I'm not able to see anybody.
Maybe what happens is the screen comes in a one window and the audience will be on the other window. So you may have to toggle between the windows to see, or if you want me to share the screen, even that is
No, that
okay.
is okay. That is okay. If at some time I go offline, please let me know.
Sure, sure, yeah.
Uh, Today happens to be Krishna Janmashtami. So greetings to one of you on this occasion.
मधुरा पुरी सदना मृदुवदना मधुसूदन इह स्वागतं कृष्ण चरणागतं कृष्ण मधुरा पुरी सदना मृदुवदना मधुसूदन इह स्वागतं कृष्ण शरणागतं कृष्ण मधुरा पुरी सदना मृदुवदना मधुसूदन इह स्वागतं कृष्ण शरणागतं कृष्ण.
Just a feedback. Was the audio video all right, Sri Narasimha Prasad?
Yes, sir, but we see a small black strip towards the bottom. Not sure whether it is from the presentation, but yeah, it was very clearly audible, sir.
The images,
Images was clear, yeah.
what was not visible?
We see a black strip towards the bottom of the screen.
All right. All right. That black strip happens to be this anyway.
Yeah,
Now,
maybe if you want
as
to
it is,
reshare once.
as it is Krishna Janmashtami, I would like to share one or two stories which I really love about the word Krishna. The word Krishna itself means Akarshanam iti Krishna. That Akarshana means that which attracts. And Krishna attracts all of us. And the whole message is if you are joyful, if you are happy, you become like Krishna. You become someone who is attractive. There is a name for a stream. In Hindi, the name for a stream is called Dhara. And the Dhara usually flows from the mountain down to the ocean. Now, if you have a drone picture, sometimes you will see that the course of the river is not absolutely straight. And there are many places along the course where the river decides to take a complete U-turn and attempts to go back to the source. And in our tradition, wherever the river takes a complete U-turn, on that convexity, you will see a very famous shrine or a temple that is there in that place, because that point is the turning back. In Vedanta, we call that as Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan, when a person is no longer driven by worldly desires and tries to look back into certain spiritual pursuits. Now, whenever the river goes back, that location is considered holy because now the dhara is no longer a dhara. The dhara now becomes the beloved of Sri Krishna, and that is Radha. So on this day, let us all be the beloved of Sri Krishna. And Radha means one who's yearning and wanting to come back to the source. Another beautiful story from the life of Sri Krishna. See, these stories are so precious in the sense that they transmit the truth. But superficially, they're just like a little bit of an entertainment. You can listen to it and then it just goes away. But if you are able to retain that story and bring it out in your own life, then you will see the story has a greater depth. Rukmani, Krishna's wife, had one major problem. And that major problem was this. She said, "You are spending more time on your flute than with me. What is there in that flute which I do not have?" And Sri Krishna's answer was, "The flute is so empty." Empty here means being empty of the ego. Whenever you are a nobody, it is said he will speak through you. Two stories from Krishna. Sri Narasimha Prasad, would any of the children or anybody would like to read this prayer? I would, from now on, I would like to make it more interactive. If somebody can
Yes.
take this lead.
Yes, sir. So we have Yashas Anil. I will ask him to unmute.
Sure,
Yashas, do
please.
you want to read this?
Yeah,
Yes,
there
sir.
are two slides. Please read it for me.
Let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers. Let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers, be to be but to be fearless in facing them. Let me not beg for the sir. Something is blocking.
Sir,
Some
a black
black.
window has, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let me not beg for the stilling of my pain, but for the heart to conquer it. Let me not look for allies in life's battlefield, but to my own strength.
Continue.
Let me find the grasp of your hand in my failure. Grant that I may not be a coward, feeling your mercy in my success alone. But let me find the grasp of your hand in my failure.
Thank you very much. I will begin with this importance of stories. As a doctor, one of the problems we face all the time, almost every day or at least every other day, we see families coming with very serious brain diseases, some of which have very little treatment options. And sometimes the problems come in small children. For example, what you are seeing on the scan, I can see a cancerous tumor in an important part of the brain called the midbrain. Now, this part of the brain is so delicate that we have to cut through important areas to be able to reach that. And sometimes the operation itself can produce a lot of damage. So the treatment options generally become very limited. To trying to get some tissue for a biopsy and to know exactly what kind of tumor that is. Many times the families would already have been to some doctor who would have told the seriousness of the problem. And they have come to you for a second opinion. And the person who's closest to the child, very often the mother, looks straight into your eyes and says, "Doctor, please tell me the truth. What is wrong with my child? Is my child going to recover?" Now, this is the problem that I have, that the families are asking for the truth. And from my own experience, I know, although truth is very important, what they are really looking for is reassurance. They are hoping and hoping that the doctor is going to say it is not something serious, it is very curable, that the child is going to be all right, often without any surgical procedure. Now, this is their expectation. And the moment if you present the truth as the truth, it has been my experience, and this is the experience of others also, whenever the truth is given as such, the first reaction is one of rejection. The family goes into a moment of stillness. They collect the scans back from you and probably go for another opinion to somebody else who's going to give a reassuring story. Now, therefore, all teachers of truth, that means all spiritual teachers, have got a technique. And the technique is to convey the truth through a story. The story is like a capsule. And if the truth is bitter, a capsule does not have any bitterness in it. And the story always has a certain charm. It begins with once upon a time. Even if you're grown up, the moment there is this once upon a time, a person becomes interested then, and then what? And through that interest, you are able to convey the truth. And once the truth comes in, that is why these stories are not for entertainment. These stories are to be ingested. And just like, certain animals will, like chewing the cud, ruminate over their whatever they have eaten once, these stories have to be internalized and seeing what is the deeper meaning of all these stories, and see how it becomes meaningful in your own life. As I said, uh, is there some way? Okay, I'm not able to see the audience, but you're still there with me, no? I want this to be interactive. Interactive means I'm going to tell you the story, and I want one or two reactions to say, what is the significance of the story? Here is a story of a famous painter. And if you can see, this painter was looking to make a painting of a person who had the most godlike face. And he searched all over the country, and he found a certain shepherd who was a very simple person, but there was so much of radiance, there was such a glow around his face. He had such charming eyes that he requested him if he will model for his painting. And he did a wonderful painting. And just looking at the painting, you had an image of how divine a human being could be. It is said that the whole country made copies of the painting of a person, of a human being that looked like God. The painter was now getting old, and now he decided to do another kind of an experiment. He said, let me paint the most devilish of human beings. And he searched everywhere. And finally, his search led him to a certain prison where there were convicts for very serious offenses. And there he found a convict who had a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, whose face was so devilish. And he requested him whether he would agree to model for a certain painting. So as he was giving the final touches to the painting, he could see tears in the model of that convict. And the painter got offended, and he said, the painter got upset, and he said, have I offended you in any way? And the convict tells him, perhaps you do not remember. I was the same person who modeled for your earlier painting. The topic is open, the story is open for discussion. And I want anybody to tell me, one or two of you to tell me what you think of the story.
Yeah, I have allowed you to unmute. If anybody wants to put up their thoughts, you can unmute yourself.
How is it like it's the same person who was the shepherd and the same person who was the devilish convict?
This is a story, but what is it? See, this is a story. Now, what we need to do is, what do we learn from the story? So the story is like that. That means this really happened. In our scriptures, there is a group of texts called itihasa. Iti means thus. Hasa means happened. Thus it happened. Now, this is an event that has happened. There was a person who was very godly. Later on, he became devilish. Now, that is a story. What is our understanding of the story?
Yeah, Sumuk, you can unmute. You don't have to raise your hand.
Sir, is this a true story or some like make-up story?
See, I told you it is called itihasa. Iti means thus it happened. Now, it is a reflection of something that has actually happened. But whenever you give a story, for example, the Titanic story, all of you know the story of the Titanic. Now, what happened in the actual story and what happened in the movie, you will see it is based on that original ship that sank. But then when you make a movie, you make a little bit of a masala on it. So you add a little spice to it. So it is a story. It has happened. Now, what do you understand by this? Now, this is how we take a story forward. Anybody else? I would like an adult to share what they would think of this story.
The situation makes persons to become
Please repeat.
Become a devilish person. Situation makes him.
Situation has made a potentially divine person a devilish person. All right, that means you are blaming a situation. Whenever we find a scapegoat for our problems, then we are still not finding an opportunity to make a correction, because it is easy to blame situations. All right, that I am a victim of circumstances. See, this is perfect. I mean, there are 100 ways to interpret a story, but we are looking at empowering ways which can transform the way we look at ourselves and the way we look at our lives. One more interpretation, please. Anybody else? Even an adult can do so.
Is it like,
Sorry.
The first
Yeah.
voice, please.
is it like no,
I'll let the child first and then maybe I'll speak. Yeah, please go ahead.
is it like no one is perfect and everyone's beautiful, and there's not everyone's beautiful, and like there's a good side and a bad side?
Absolutely, absolutely. Very true. One more, there was another voice which came in. Please, I fully agree with this young child who spoke there. Please continue, somebody else.
You see, what gets reflected is what you perceive, what you see.
Now, all right, I will tell you what, see, there is a very, this is from the Upanishads, one particular Upanishads, Mana Eva Manushyanam.
Sir, I can't see anything.
You can't see anything?
Yeah, there's a gray script.
Hello, my screen is not seen now.
Sir, only thing is there are some black stripes that are coming at the bottom and the top.
I'll do one thing. I'll stop the screen share. Now everything is okay. That black screen and all has gone away.
Yeah, we don't see anything.
All right, I'll do a screen share once again. I hope it is okay now. Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
All right, is it okay now?
Yeah, it's better. I think the black strip exists, but it is not distorting the screen.
I don't see anything at all, no? Is it
Yeah,
okay?
that's fine, sir. You can continue. Yeah, I'll let you know if there is something distorting the screen.
Please update me about it. All right. Now, this is only, this is an Upanishad says, you know, my mind can be trained to be divine. My mind can degenerate to become a devil. So the real divine and the real devil is not outside of me. It is really within me. In all our scriptures, these are portrayals, you know, like Yudhishthira and Duryodhana have been portrayed as one as an epitome of values, another as an epitome of you know, all the bad, bad characters a person can possibly have. There was a story, let's say, you know, you stay in a particular town on a suburb of a particular city. There was a person who was relocating to a particular city, to a particular suburb, and he comes to a person, and he comes to a person. Now, this person who's coming is a Yudhishthira-like character, a person who has got all the good values. And before he enters the town, he sees an old man sitting outside the town. And he says, I'm trying to relocate to this place. What kind of place this is? So the old man says, from which place do you come from? And he mentioned the name of his place. How are the people there? He says, oh, that's a wonderful city, beautiful, nice people. Unfortunately, circumstances made me to leave that place. So he says, this is also a great city. You will enjoy yourself. You are most welcome. Then a Duryodhana character comes and meets the same old man a little later. And then he asks the same question. I have to relocate to your city. I want to know how the people are here. And then the same question, how was your city? Oh my God, that was a terrible place. All thugs and all crooks. I had to escape from that place because I could not manage. He says, don't step in here. This is a worse city, which means, you know, often we blame circumstances, we blame situations, but the whole reality is how I'm able to handle. And this is what is called the various techniques of mind management. The same mind, which can be the cause of bondage, the same mind can be trained to bring freedom. Now, anybody wants to discuss any other details about this story before we go to another story? If there is nothing, I will proceed. I'm just going to share one or two stories and then I will leave it for. Tell me, anybody wants to say something?
No, sir, I concur with what you're actually saying. I was, the way that I looked at the story is that the first phase was probably the godly beginning. And then there is some kind of a temptation that comes in, which could either be in the form of power, wealth, love, knowledge, etc., etc. And then there's a turning point to it, the descent and the transformation into, the final consequences. So agree with you, sir. Agree with you.
I know, which also means it is so easy to fall. There is a biblical story of Lucifer, and they say, how Lucifer fell. I mean, he was so close to God, but he had a tremendous fall. And when you fall like Lucifer. Okay, now this is another story. This is a story, these are small stories, and a person who I know had to go abroad for a small training, for a fellowship for about 3 months in a particular city in one American town. And he told me how the story did impact him. It's a story of a certain spiritual guru who had 2 students. And as he was getting old, he wanted to decide which of these 2 students is going to be his successor. So he gives them an envelope, both of them an envelope, and he gives them 24 hours time. And he says, this is your job for you. In 24 hours time, you have to burn this envelope. You have to destroy this envelope, but destroy it in a place where there is absolutely nobody. No one should see you destroying this envelope. So the first person took absolute care. He ensured that a particular room that he went to, there was nobody who could access that room. He lit a match, burnt that envelope given by his teacher, reported to the teacher. The second person spent more than 24 hours and he comes back to the teacher with the envelope. And then he tells the teacher, you told me to destroy this in a place where there was nobody. And he said, I had a problem. Wherever I went, I was there. Just reflect on this. Wherever I went, he said, destroy it in a place where there is nobody. And I want you to think, wherever I go, I was there. I was telling you about this person who went for a 3-month fellowship to an American town. And, sometimes on a weekend, you're free. See, whenever you are busy, that is why it's so important to keep our mind. The mind is like a monkey. When the mind is busy, you are not a problem for yourself. You're not a problem for others. But the moment you have a weekend and you have nothing to do, and suddenly he got across another friend who tempted him to experiment with something which he had never done before and which he knew was not ethical, not right, not a right thing to do, not morally right to do. And then, anyway, he says, see, you're in a foreign country, nobody will know anything. And then he remembered the story, and then he told the story to his friend. He says, wherever I go, wherever I was there, isn't it? Please, anybody wants to share their thoughts on this story? And then we'll proceed. All right. If you interrupt me, you can. I will tell you 1 or 2 more stories. This is a story of a particular Buddhist temple somewhere in Bangkok, which a huge statue of Buddha. A lot of people were very reverentially praying to that Buddha. And one day the highway had to be expanded and the temple was included in the highway. So they had to relocate the statue. And in the process of relocating the statue breaks. And to their amazement, they discover it is not an ordinary statue of Buddha, but a golden statue of Buddha. And the story goes, when the Buddhist monks made this golden statue, their concern was how to protect so much gold. And there was an impending invasion by a neighboring country. So very quickly, to protect this monument a golden statue. They covered it with clay. And it was such a closely guarded secret when they died and their followers died. They had forgotten that in this temple, they had a golden statue with them. Story over. Please give me your thoughts and your reflections on the story. Anybody? Adults? All right. For want of time, I will tell you. See, all of us look very ordinary on the surface. That is why when you are in the spiritual path, there is a very nice words from a Jesuit priest, Pihal de Chardin, a Jesuit priest from France. He had made this quotation. We are not human beings having an occasional spiritual experience, but the other way around. We are divine beings who have forgotten our true nature and think we are ordinary human beings. All of us look very ordinary as far as our body and mind is concerned. But the essence of all of us, as far as Advaita Vedanta, is the Atma. There is that na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha ajaha nityaha sashvataha puranaha na hanyamane sharire. Now, that there is some entity which does not die with the death of the body. And the whole purpose of life is to be able to discover that divinity, which I call in the story, the Golden Buddha. Now, if somebody helps you to discover the Golden Buddha in you, the next important discovery is you are able to see the Golden Buddha in everybody. And your whole effort is to help others to be able to discover their essential divinity. Let me tell you a related story. Can somebody tell me which place is this? Unmute and tell me what are you looking at?
I know this place, sir.
Tell me.
Isn't this place? I learned. Sorry, I forgot.
Is it Babri Masjid?
No.
Sir, is it
Jerusalem?
a mosque?
Yeah, you can see a mosque, you can see a church, and you can see Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem.
Sir.
This in
Oh
Jerusalem.
yeah, Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem, in one view, if you stand at this place, you can see all the three important structures. The big wall that you see directly in front and so many worshippers there. This is the holiest place for the Jews, the holiest place. It is called the Western Wall. Some people call it the Wailing Wall, and they have their own practices near the wall, but this is considered the holiest of holy places in the whole world for the Jews. Now, this wall is part of the compound of one of the third holiest place for the Muslims. After Mecca and Medina, there is this mosque, which is part of this place. It is said that Muhammad ascended to the heavens from this place. I have a little thought block. I'm not able to get the name of this mosque because on my second visit to Jerusalem, the first time I could not get access. On the second visit to Jerusalem, I had a chance to go to this very holy place, and it was a wonderful experience to visit this mosque, Al-Aqsa Mosque. Al-Aqsa. This is one of the second holiest places for the Muslims. I'm sorry, after Mecca, Medina, the third most. And that huge steeple that you see is the place where Jesus was crucified. So all those streets are the history of Jesus, where Jesus walked, where Jesus gave various talks. So this is a holy land. If you talk about holy land, it is holy for the Jews, holy for the Muslims, it is holy for the Christians also. Not too far from Bethlehem, on a slightly elevated position, this place where you can see these rocks there, that place is called Shepherd Fields. Lower down there, there's a little valley, and that valley is Bethlehem. Now, there were a group of three shepherds who walked by the place where I first showed you, this place called Shepherd Fields. And on that night, they could see a star, but the star had something unusual. It was pointing down. And they got something like a divine signal that under that, somebody the creator is born. I mean, somebody of the consciousness of Jesus, that Jesus was born. They had a message that the messenger was born. And they go to see the baby Jesus. Now, the birth of Jesus has changed the whole of history from before Christ to after Christ. And it is said when somebody of that greatness is born, there is a celestial phenomenon in the skies to indicate the birth of Jesus. Now, there are 77 people here and many more on YouTube. Now, many children are here and their parents are here. My question to each one of you, and I want you to answer this question either silently or aloud. What happened on the night where you were born? Was there a special star in the sky to indicate your birth? Yes or no? I'm waiting for your answer. What happened?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I want you to
Yes.
believe. I want you to say yes, because whenever you say yes, you validate yourself. Your birth is significant. Each one of you who's listening to these words, you have been born at the right place, to the right family, in the right country, in the right circumstances, for a right purpose, which we are here to discover. Purpose cannot be given by anybody else. But if you think and if you validate yourself that your life is meaningful, your time is meaningful, your decision making is meaningful, then you will understand that the whole history of the world has been prepared for you. You know, I'm after studying Advaita Vedanta, especially now when we are studying what is called Mandukya Karika Advaita Prakarana, where there is something called Eka Jiva Vada, which means the most important person in the world is you. The whole world has been generated for you. And if you're able to give that validation, then you will be able to discover meaning, you will be able to discover purpose. That is why each one of us are unique. One more story. This is the story of Michelangelo, the great sculptor. He was working on a block of marble. And somebody asked, "What are you doing?" It was just an unchiseled solid block. And then he says, "Jesus is there within this block. I only have to chip off that which is unnecessary." So from the time we are born, our parents and teachers are constantly molding us and uh, trying to chip off all that is unnecessary and to make us who we are.
Sir, we can't see any screen.
I deliberately took it off. I want to see you now. Please tell me, what do you think of this story? The story of Michelangelo. You know, Michelangelo was working on a block. Now, whenever the teachers and your parents chisel you, that means they try to shape you into making you who you are. When they try to remove whatever is unnecessary. And what is unnecessary? Often our ahankara, our ego, our pride, that has to be trimmed off. And whenever parents or teachers do that, we get very offended, we get very upset. But remember, they are doing the best that they think to be able to bring out that Christ that is there in that raw stone. Because your life is significant. There is a special star to indicate your birth. You are here for a purpose. This world is made for you, and you are here to improve the world or to change the world. Your thoughts on this story, please. Shall I proceed? You've got one story. All right, I will tell you one more story. And this is a story of a certain boy who loved his dog very much. And when the dog was sick, nobody in the family cared too much about it. So he had to take the dog to the veterinarian. Now, generally, medicines are very bitter. And doctors, especially veterinarian doctors, know how to give that medicine into the dog. There is a certain technique how to give. Now, this boy comes home with a very expensive medicine bottle and he wants his dog to be all right. But how to give this dog, the dog is so big and he's so small, how to give the dog that medicine? So he opens the dog's mouth, in an untrained manner, opens the lid of that bottle, pours that medicine into the dog's mouth. The moment that bitter medicine touches the dog's tongue, it wriggles so much that it knocks off the bottle, and all that expensive medicine is on the floor. Now the boy is so angry, so upset, and uses all the words that he's heard from his parents and others on that dog. And as he is washing his hands, you know what he observes? The dog is licking the medicine from the ground. To all the children here, very often, this message is more to the parents than the children. Not that our children don't accept our advice, they don't like it to be pushed down their throat. And therefore, that is the significance of the story. As parents and teachers, we want the best for our children. But sometimes when there is a certain force, and when you are giving it, when the child is not yet ready, it can be counterproductive. Not that they don't accept it, but we have to find better ways to be able to give. Any thoughts? Any reflections?
Venkatesh Prasad, sir, you can unmute.
Sir, there is a message in the chat box about one of the stories you said. Wherever you go, your conscience is there. I think you have to elaborate it, at least for elders. You are the conscience, your body is there.
That's true. I will not focus on teaching Vedanta here, although, each of these stories have their own significance. I've already said, see, we are not ordinary, we are extraordinary. And the extraordinariness in us is not the body, not the mind, but the observer in all of us. That observer. Now, elaborating on Venkatesh Prasad's advice, there is something in all of us which has never changed from the time we were very small. If you look at your own photograph, you will see your body has changed, your mind has changed, your thoughts have changed. So much has changed. But something that I call myself, me, that has never changed. That non-changing entity which goes in and through everything, that is what, wherever I went, I was there. Now, this is the story of the Princess of Kashi. Beautiful stories. All right. There was a kingdom where there was a king and queen at the time of Kashi. And in the palace, on a particular occasion, it must be Krishna Janmashtami or something, the queen wanted to have a certain drama for all the people in the palace. And they were looking for a 5-year-old girl who is going to act the role as Princess of Kashi. But then they could not find a girl. Then finally they decided, there was a prince, her own son was 5 years old. So what they did was they dressed him up like a girl, and she played the role of the Princess of Kashi. They had a small role, nothing very big for a small child. But when the boy was dressed up like a girl, she looked so beautiful, or he looked so beautiful as a girl, that the queen asked the court painter to make a painting of the prince who was now dressed like a little princess. And underneath there was a title, Princess of Kashi, and the date was put. Many years later, the boy, 15 years later, now 20 years of age, explored some of the places in the palace which is not normally exposed. And there he found one painting of a 5-year-old girl. And as he looked at it, it said Princess of Kashi. And the date was mentioned. And he calculated, oh, that girl now should be about 20 years of age. And just looking at the painting, he really fell for. And he was thinking of, if ever I'm going to marry, it is going to be this girl. And the 20-year-old boy, now lost in his thoughts, suddenly the parents realized there was something wrong with that boy. And so they asked, because he will not share anything to the parents. So they asked a certain minister to speak to the prince as to what was bothering him. So he says, I'm in love with a girl. And who's that? She's the Princess of Kashi. He said, Princess of Kashi. And where did you see her? I've not seen her. I've only seen her painting. Where is that painting? Then he goes and shows that painting. Then he relates that whole story to that prince. He says, this is what happened. There was a particular drama. That one, that painting that you are seeing is none other than you alone. So the whole of Vedanta is you are searching and searching. And the ultimate search, when you discover the person that you are really looking for is none other than yourself. And the moment you discover that it is me, then a sense of desire and all that is gone. Any thoughts on this story? This is a story similarly also of Kunti taking a special time off during the war to meet Karna. And as the battle was progressing, she wanted to use her ultimate weapon to be able to protect one other son of hers, that is Arjuna. Karna was committed to kill Arjuna. And so she wanted to, until now, she had kept it as a secret. Karna never knew who his real mother was. He was brought up by a certain servant. He was always called a Sutaputra. And he had a tremendous sense of, what do you call it, inferiority feeling about himself. And then what happens is she calls him and says, see, I have not only 5, I have 6 sons. Would you like to know who my 6th son is? He says, of course, I would like to know who is your 6th son. And she says, my 6th son is you. Now, this is what happens in the course of a spiritual discovery. When you are searching for God, God disguises himself in various ways. And the covering is so difficult to uncover. It requires a guru and the shastras to uncover. And the paradox is, when you uncover, you are not going to uncover somebody else. You are going to discover yourself. Now, this is all that is Vedanta. What I will do is I will quickly run through in another 5 minutes a few stories from medicine. And this is a story of the person, Ambrose Paré, who's called the father of modern surgery. But he was a barber surgeon. In the early days, whenever the army used to go, barbers used to go, because barbers had a knife, and anyway, when they had a wound, they knew how to treat the wound. When gunpowder was discovered, for the first time, they had very ghastly injuries. And the injuries were so bad, the only treatment they had to do was a guillotine. The French knew what is a guillotine type of an operation, where the damaged part of the limb is cut off. Now the stump will start bleeding, and for that they had to use some boiling oil. Of course, there was no anesthesia in these days. They put hot oil there to stop that bleeding. And one day they had so much of amputation, they ran out of that oil. And Ambrose Paré had to stop the bleeding. He took a thread from somewhere and tied it on that blood vessel. This was the first surgical ligature. And then they discovered that those arms that were treated by a ligature method and not this boiling oil, they healed much better. And this gave the birth. Surgeons are known to stitch with threads. So the thread that a surgeon used came through an accidental discovery. Children today will never know what is smallpox. In our own, when I was small, one of the biggest diseases that would kill large number of people was smallpox. Smallpox used to come in what is called epidemics. We have seen what COVID was and hundreds of people dying. And it was a terrible disease where you had poxes all over the body, and many people was to be disfigured for life. Now, Edward Jenner was an English physician. He made one observation. And the observation was, whenever there was an epidemic of smallpox, those ladies who milked cows did not suffer from smallpox. And when he further discovered, they had a milder form of smallpox called cowpox. And then it occurred that because they had that cowpox, it protected him from smallpox. That thought, whether you can take a small dose of the disease, deliberately inject, I think this must be his own son. So this is a process of immunization, so that when the actual disease comes. So Edward Jenner was able to, all he did was one observation. For all the children here, our whole, chance favors the prepared mind. I want you to look for how you can be very alert and you can make great discoveries. Today, if you make a great discovery, you will be remembered as the Nobel Prize. When Alfred Nobel was one of the richest Swedish inventors because he had discovered the dynamite. And when his brother died, a French newspaper accidentally reported that Alfred Nobel had died. And he had a chance to read his own obituary by mistake, and it was titled that the merchant of death is dead. And he had made discoveries which caused so much of human suffering because for the first time dynamite was being used in. So he was the inventor of dynamite. Now that changed him to make the Nobel Prize that we know about. You are raising your hand. You have a question? Let me tell one or two accidental discoveries which led to the Nobel Prize. Now, this is a story of a physicist from Germany called Röntgen. He was experimenting with a cathode ray tube. And each time he put on the current through his cathode ray tube, he discovered some chemicals at the far end of the room were becoming glowing, were becoming bright. It was a dark room. There was no light. But the moment the cathode ray came, that those chemicals would brighten up. Then he covered that whole cathode ray tube with a 1,000-page book, and he was able to see that there was some ray that was penetrating to all that. So he discovered some penetrating rays, but he did not know what it was. Because he did not know what it was, and when we don't know what it is, he called it the X-ray. And he asked his wife to put his hand, and then he exposed a photographic film. This was the first X-ray ever. And of course, some years later, he won the Nobel Prize for this discovery. Now, one or two more Nobel Prize discoveries that came by chance. This is Julius von Jorek, a French psychiatrist. In those days, there was a particular disease called syphilis affecting the brain, and it used to produce a kind of mental illnesses called GPI, general paralysis of the insane. He made one discovery in his mental asylum. Whenever people had high fever, many of them recovered so much from their mental illnesses that they could be discharged and go home. So he felt that fever therapy could be the treatment for this brain disease, which is a neurosyphilis. So in those days, there was a cure for malaria by quinine. So he would deliberately create malaria in this patient. And for this fever therapy, Julius Wagner von Jorek won the Nobel Prize. You will see how a chance observation, one or two chance observations. I'm telling you because you are young. Vedanta for the time being can be those principles that if I'm being a keen observer, then I will be able to make some landmark changes in my whole world. Egas Moniz was from Lisbon, Portugal. He was a neurologist, and he did a lot of work to make what is called cerebral angiography. Today, angiography, we do angiography of the heart, angiography of the brain. It is a regular process that we do. But this person, he came to a particular neurological meeting in London, and he was waiting for his chance to make a certain presentation. Before him, there was another speaker. His name was John Fulton. And he was speaking of how they made some experiments on the brains of chimpanzees, and very aggressive chimpanzees became very easy to handle. In those days, mental hospitals were full of patients where they had no form of treatment. Then it occurred to him, if I can put a needle into the brain and cut some areas of the frontal lobe, it just, based on that same previous chimpanzee experiment. In those days, we did not have all these methods of opening the skull. So through the help of a particular surgeon, he discovered how we can enter the brain without opening the skull and cutting some areas of the brain. And then remarkable improvement occurred in a certain group. At that time, it was considered a great thing. And more than his work, his great work is cerebral angiography. But for the discovery of psychosurgery, of course, which is not practiced now, he won the Nobel Prize. One of my last stories will be the discovery of antibiotics. Now, here is the story of Alexander Fleming. Fleming was a microbiologist. He had gone on a holiday, and when he came back and he was observing one of his growth of bacteria, he found that a particular mold had contaminated that bacterial growth. And around that mold, there were no bacteria at all. Then he went to discover, he was about to throw it off because he said something has gone wrong. There has been some molding contamination, but that mold had the ability to kill the bacteria. And further discovery led to the discovery of penicillin, which is the first antibiotic ever and which transformed medicine for so many years. Another Nobel Prize discovery that came accidentally. I think this must be my last Nobel Prize winning discovery. This person, his name is, he discovered that split brain Roger Sperry. Roger Sperry, I think his name is also here. Yeah, Roger Sperry was a psychologist. A certain neurosurgeon had to do what is called a split brain operation for the treatment of epilepsy. And when he studied these patients, he discovered that we don't have one brain, but two brains with clearly distinct function. The left brain, which is the expressive brain, the right brain is the thinking and the feeling brain. And later on, people said the left brain is predominantly masculine, right brain is feminine and all that. And for this work, he won the Nobel Prize. Now, it is said that this area between the eyes, if you press, it is called the Agnya Chakra. And if you touch that, or in India, you apply bindi in that area, it's supposed to activate the Agnya Chakra, which means that you can activate both sides of the brain. Symbolically, we have in Lord Shiva the third eye, and Shiva is portrayed as Ardhanarishwara. A complete person is a combination of both male and female. You've heard of pasteurization. Now, pasteurization comes from Louis Pasteur. In those days, milk used to go bad, wine used to go bad, and then we did not know what was the cause, but he made a discovery that if you could boil the milk, it can protect it. And that's how we have the whole discovery. And he coined this term, chance favors the prepared mind. My last story is about the Wright brothers. When they were making a machine which they hoped would fly, people said it is impossible. But these two brothers said it may be difficult, but possible. And to all the young people here, I would like you to see that, see how you are not ordinary. Although my body is ordinary, my mind is ordinary, there is something of me which is extraordinary. I'm here in the right place for a right purpose. What is that purpose? I have to discover. Nobody else can give me purpose. I need to find out what is there in me that I am here to express. And if I'm able to express that, that is what we are here for. Thank you very much, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Thank you, sir. Now I would leave the audience if you have anything that you want to bring up, discuss before we conclude the session. Any students wants to ask anything about the stories that sir narrated?
I want to tell.
Come on.
Okay, so I know about the Nobel stories because I live in Sweden. So we have.
Karolinska? Where in
What?
Sweden? Where in, this is the Karolinska Institute. Where in Sweden?
Malmo.
Okay. Please go ahead, tell me.
Okay, so in school we. So I go in an international school, and also I go. So I usually in school, when it is the Nobel's Day, we dress up and we also tell the story about the Nobel.
Very good, very good. How old are you?
I'm 8 years old.
Very good, good. So you are in a very, a place which is very important for, which has set landmarks for excellence. That means, and that is what I want all children to strive for. We have so much of abilities. Very often we are not able to use our fullest abilities. And through the exposure to Vedanta and through our own idea of self-esteem. We need to be able to bring out what the the Nobel Center, they are looking for the best in the world in medicine, in chemistry, in physics, in literature, and so on. Economics, please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look,
Sir, I actually also live in Sweden.
Okay. Who's this?
Huh?
Sumukha.
I'm Sumukha.
Sumika. Welcome.
I live in Stockholm.
Okay. How old are you?
11.
Good.
11 years old. I live the opposite direction of Karolinska
Really?
Institute.
So nice. Look, by chance, see, my stories were Vedanta, but somehow I brought all these Nobel Prize stories for you.
I know. I've heard this story, like, not a lot of times, but like normal times.
Now, this story is also about Nobel himself. No, he was the inventor of dynamite, and he did not want to be known as the merchant of death, and that is why he had 100 factories at that time. He was so rich, and all of them were producing various arms and ammunition. He decided that the entire whatever his money was will go in for the best in the world for the prize. So now we remember Nobel for something so special.
Deepya?
I'm not sure if this is a accidental Nobel Prize, but is like Marie Curie and her invention of radium
That's right.
to treat cancer,
Yeah.
was that like an accidental
Not an
invention?
accidental discovery. You know, both this husband and wife, Pierre and Mary, worked for years and worked for years for this. And if you know something, there are very few people who have refused the Nobel Prize. And one of them was her husband. Pierre Curie refused to take the prize unless Mary Curie was also offered that prize. So he was the first person to reject the prize, and then afterwards they accepted to include her also. So he wanted her also to be included. I think and for the then on they started sharing the Nobel Prize between more than one person. And she was the first woman to get the Nobel Prize. And later on, after he died, she won first the Nobel Prize in physics, then the Nobel Prize in chemistry also. So she had a double record of having 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different subjects there too.
Okay.
But we have a question from audience. The question is, what should we do to make the kids aware of their inner capabilities and strive to shine out, or help them to have life goals and work towards it? Interesting question from a very concerning parent.
See, the only way that we are able to instruct to children is the most difficult way is to be role models. Because children don't listen to what we say, they listen to who you are. And whenever there is a disparity between who you are and what you say, children are able to see it and they're more likely to follow who you are rather than what you say. Therefore, now if you want to inculcate punctuality, if you want to inculcate cleanliness, whatever values that you want to inculcate, be an embodiment of that which you want to be for your child. And that is not easy, but that is the best way to be able to
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. Anyone has any other questions? No questions? Okay. Madam, do you want to say a few words, Rama ma'am or Venkatesh Prasad, sir?
Sir has covered beautifully all the stories. He has stitched all the stories.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Sir, one of the messages I saw on the chat box was, all of us must try to bring the golden Buddha within us.
So true. Absolutely. Yes, true.
So as you always say, whenever you say the story of Buddha, you will be elaborating on that to bring the goodness, divinity within us.
In Vedanta, we talk that as the Atma, the real me, someone other than the body. When I gave you that photograph example, the body changes, the mind changes, but there is a non-changing entity. And see, children, you're still very young, but these are not at this stage, but at some stage when you will be able to discover the true golden Buddha. Right now, it is to give you the sense of self-esteem, a sense of validation that you are okay, that you are here, you are important, that your actions and whatever you think, feel, and do matter.
So all this while we have been learning about Guru Tattva, how our gurus have led their life as an examples that we need to follow. When we say how do we make our kids strive their goals, so we have a lineage to follow, we have lineage to observe and follow their footpaths. So that is what we have been learning so far. And today's session was it was completely out of the box. It made us to reflect on ourselves, think more inwards. So there is a saying, Arive Guru, the consciousness itself is the Guru. That was the conclusion that we can draw from this session. Every other story that you narrated was so intriguing that we need to reflect on that, and a message that we need to take it for ourselves. Wonderful, sir. It was indeed a very thought-provoking session that we had, and that too towards the end. After we had learned the things, now the journey begins, knowing more within and to be more capable of facing the challenges. Wonderful, and thank you for that session, sir. I would maybe before I conclude, I would just give a pause and take up anyone if anyone has any questions or want to share anything about the session.
Just to add to Sir's first story about the model, that story of her painting and the model he became, there is a story written by K.V. Iyer in Kannada that is called Rupadarshi. Rupadarshi tells a model for painting the Jesus, and after certain years, the person who killed Jesus, who threw stone on case, the same person comes. That story relates to this, what Sir said.
Thank you for sharing, sir. Shubham, you have anything to ask or tell, share?
Sorry, sir, this is Shubham's mom. I just wanted to say something. Just thanking Hegde sir for sharing all of those lovely stories. I think it's an eye-opener for parents who are listening as well. Some really good takeaways for us to think about how we role model, how, like that Michelangelo story, how you chisel the stone to get out what you want. I think beautifully relayed stories. Thank you so much, sir. Lots of takeaways for both children and parents.
Somebody was asking if there is a platform. The platform that I have is not primarily for children. It's a platform that we have to be able to study if there is some meaning, some purpose in life, if you're blessed to be a human being, and if the Guru Tattva has entered into our life, it is to be able to explore the essence of the Vedas that is called the Vedanta. Very fortunately, we have gurus who have exposed this, and I can tell you far greater than any other accomplishment in the world is the ability to discover our true nature. So we are a small group called Param Vedanta. Those parents who may be interested can just look into whatever YouTube channel called Param Vedanta. We are systematically studying based on what our teacher has told us about the Gita, the Upanishads, and so on. Now, because the topic is so difficult to bring it to children, there is one of us, Dr. Sachin, who's doing such a program for children. So Sachin also has got, I think, his own YouTube channel. Yeah. But for parents will be to be able to get an insight. And I would recommend Vedanta, Ours is a study group, but you can look into where you can look into Vedanta. Venkatesh, you want to say something?
Sachin had a session here in this series also. Sachin took a class and it was very interactive. And even the children had a lot of questions. They answered the quiz also. I think Nasim Prasad ji can give the reference of Sachin for the kids to join his Bhagavad Gita classes. And the elders, you can give our Param Vedanta connection. I think you are a part of that one of the groups, I think now, Gurukul or Turiya, I think. You can give reference. They're always welcome. And we are here to be a bridge between sir and gurus and these people.
Thank you, sir. Fortunate and blessed to be under the leadership or mentorship of Thimappa Hegde, sir. Yes, sir. Anybody who comes with an inquiry will definitely connect.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful series of lectures.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The penultimate session was this, I would say, because this really give a message that after knowing all this, you have to reflect on yourself so that you can realize what you have been learning so far.
And today's session was totally different than all other earlier sessions. It was 100% for kids.
From Kalahasti Shri
Kartikeya, you want to tell something?
Somebody has a question.
Somebody has a question, is it? Okay. Okay. Are there any books you would recommend that we can use to narrate these stories? Kids always demand stories every night.
This is not for children. This is for parents. You know, my first introduction to the world of spiritual stories was from Anthony de Mello. Anthony de Mello has written a book called The Song of the Bird. It is available. Small stories taken from different sources, very brief, very powerful. So, but there are hundreds, but The Song of the Bird is the opening story. Google Anthony de Mello. Anthony de Mello is a Jesuit priest. I come from a Jesuit schooling background. I have the regards for him like I would regard him as a guru and an enlightened master. And Anthony de Mello's book, The Song of the Bird, The Prayer of the Frog, and so on.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. We would definitely love to have you frequently to get these kind of sessions. Again, it depends on your availability. Thank you for facilitating this session. We'll conclude the sessions with Shanti Mantra. Kayena vacha manasendriyelva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai Srimannarayanaayeti samarpayami. Srimannarayanaayeti samarpayami. Srimannarayanaayeti samarpayami. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Tat Sat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
That's
great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks everyone for joining. Wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om, sir.
Hari Om.
Thank you, sir.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, sir.